Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you very much, especially Professor Simons, for introducing me. So I would like to reintroduce myself a little bit so you get a more idea. So by training, I was forester, but of course I study in development. So that means I mix with one very, ecology and on the other hand, social science or development. So that's why I was inspired as a young, graduate when I was graduated in 1990 in the Forestry Institute of Technology. So I tried to set up the NGO because I do believe, as you know, Myanmar has been facing a lot of political problem and especially we are struggling for democratic reform. So I think part of the democratic reform, to me, I think the role of civil society is important. That's why. So I inspired myself to set up the NGO back in 1994. So at the time, the military control is still very, tight. But again, I find a way to be able to, set up the local NGO called EcoDev. Later, I changed the name as a LAM. Okay. But in early part of my NGO, so I have to work with international development agency like UNDP or other, Outspan or CARE or, the implement some community development activity. Of course, I also promote the natural resource management activity like setting up the, helping the local poor for establishing the community forests or soil and water conservations, other, water infrastructure. That is almost 10 years. After that, I learned the importance of the government. Because one time I helped local people when he faced the problem with local administrations, because he cut the tree from his farm boundary, and then suddenly he was arrested. Because in Myanmar, so there's a so-called so many local rules. It can make you travel anytime if they like. So that's why if you cut one tree, you will be punished for the 3-year sentence. So I was able to help him because according to the law, there is no such a rule exist, but it just said, local instruction by the local authority to control the local people. So that's why I fight that case in the court. And then I was, in the beginning, I was defeated in the township code or district code, but finally at the Supreme Court, I won because I appealed that, okay, there's no such a law existing, natural resource law or forest law. It's just a local instruction overrule the existing law. So I was successful and I won. So that's why I was, amazing. Even we have this military control, very tightening grip. We find a political space to be able to, reinforce the rule of law. So in that way, I moved to the political side and more governance working. So we are helping. So fortunately, in 2010, the political situation in Myanmar is a little bit relaxed because there is still military, ex-military general became a president, but because of new constitution, they developed them. So a little bit relaxed and a little bit political space that we NGO can officially work. So we're trying to utilize that political space. We get more involved, in this organizing different public campaign. So I was one of the outspoken civil society leader in organizing 3 public campaigns during the last decade. And my first campaign was this river campaign because at the time, because for those who are not familiar with my country, maybe I have to introduce the geography. So we are, it's a pointer here. So this is Myanmar. So we are in between, we are one of the Southeast Asian nations. So in terms of landmass, we are second largest after Indonesia. So we are located between India, so in the west, and then we have a China in the northeast. So we have in the southeast, we have a Thailand. So there is where Myanmar. So the size of the country is more or less, England and French combined. So we have 55 million people living there. So the major economy is agriculture based, but for government, the major revenue came from natural resource like forestry or mining or natural gas, because we have a lot of natural gas and from these offshore area, and then we sell natural gas to Thailand, and we sell, natural gas to China across the pipeline, so across the country with through the pipeline. So I think there is a major economy. So major investor in Myanmar is, of course, our neighboring country, China. They have a lot of investment projects. One of the projects they did around in 2010 was what we call it missile dam project. So I try to mobilize these missile dam because to me it's not sustainable. That's why when political space was open, so we organized a different campaign at the grassroots level and at the national level. So different strategies we used. So we were able to, successfully campaign down. Then after the river campaign, so I go for the air campaign because at the time government also planned with the assistance given by, Japanese government to build a coal-fired power plant for, up to the 8,000 megawatt. As a person working on the environment and climate change, building coal-fired power plants too much. So I also organized. So fortunately, I was able to stop that national program and all the 8,000 megawatts were postponed, canceled. And another one is a land grabbing. We got a lot of land grabbing in our country because of these company or business company or military, related, business company. So more than 5 million acres are seized and the farmer losses. So once there's a political space open, we are able to articulate the concerns and, use the existing law to fight back to get the land. At least I'm not I do not certify myself, but at least 1 million of lands are back to the farm. Still another 4 million to go. Anyway, these are the general introductory of how I moved myself from the development practitioner to the environmental justice. So today, what I would like to share with you is, so that river campaign, because I believe by sharing that experience, you have a more, insight, from the ground on how this hydropower development can be, sustainably developed. That may be good for the academic in relation with your research interest. Maybe for those activists, maybe we got a more idea on our environmental justice. For those policymakers, of course, some of the issue I raised might be useful for thinking deeply enough on the sustainable use of water. Okay, that's the focus of my talk today. Okay, so that's why let me move to another slide. So I would like to introduce you to the missile dam project. So this is our country. This project is located at the north of the country. So here, there is a major river called Irrawaddy River, and then there's a 2 tributaries there. So the original plan of these Chinese investment, especially the CPI, one of the most powerful Chinese, their company on this energy production, electricity generation. So they plan to invest $3.6 billion hydropower development project to build a 7 dam. You can see there's a 7 dam here, and total, electricity generation will be reaching to 30,000, megawatt, which is huge. So at the time, the electricity generation, the whole country of Myanmar is just 3,000 megawatts. So it's almost 5 times or 4 times higher than that existing generation. But it's a huge. So everybody, especially those who care about these business and economy, they welcome the project. Of course, local companies are not happy. Some of the environmentalists, including me, are not happy. That's why we come up trying to engage in lobbying with different groups, and especially with the government about this project. So according to their initial plan, so 90% of electricity will go to China. So Myanmar will get 10% free electricity. This is how arrangement they make there. And then from the sale of the electricity, 70% of revenue will go to the China, and the 20% will be Myanmar will retain 20%, income, and then 10% for broker. This is really question mark to us. Who is broker? Why you are giving 10% to broker? So there is a big concern in our case. So I think this project was initially, in 2006, they have a sort of MOU to do the feasibility survey of this survey. And then they took 2 years to complete their feasibility study. And in the 2009, I think they have a memorandum of agreement between Myanmar and China, to implement this project. Okay, so the project started their groundwork in 2010. Why they are doing environmental impact assessment? At the time in Myanmar, we don't have any environmental law. We only have some sectoral law, but not, these comprehensive environmental. So that's why it's not sure whether it will require environmental impact assessment, to be able to proceed the implementation. Anyway, the China, so taking the good practice of China, the law in the China, they did this environmental impact assessment. Unfortunately, they only spent 5 months to complete the EIA and come out with, okay, everything's okay, go ahead. So this is how they proceed, So that's why I'm going to elaborate more on that part in the later part of my presentation. Professor, remind me the time. Okay, so that's why in 2010 they have already started. Even though EIA is not yet approved, already are done there. Then some lands are already clear and relocation already made. In fact, you should only do your project implementation when everything is approved, right? But the cut is before the horse, so they did it. This is one of the, problem of that project as far as I found. So I think, so that the role I contribute to the Mr. Dan, because when they started their implementation in 2010, a lot of people, especially local people, complain. And then, so we help local community to be able to, part a whole nation. So this community campaign, spread over the entire state of this northern part, as well as the whole country. So I technically challenge the project, asking the sustainable development question. So as everybody knows, in sustainable, we always talk about, whether the project is economically viable or beneficial, or whether ecologically stable or socially acceptable. So I wrote an article called 20 questions. So there's a 20 questions. In fact, I'm trying to ask all these aspects whether this project is sustainable. Okay, so what I'm going to discuss today is I revisited all these questions again. I'm not going to discuss all these 20 questions, but I'm trying to revisit all these questions and then try to understand myself, on this complex issue of hydropower development. So that's why you can argue with me or you can agree with me on some of the points I'm going to discuss. First aspect I want to discuss is this economic aspect. To me, if the project is not economically beneficial, economically viable, your promise on the environment compliance is going to be failed, right? So that's why I try to examine, even though the information is not disclosed, but we try to find a way to get the leak information and use the leak information and start challenging the economic, aspect of that project. So one of the, aspect I really challenge is that, this economic rate of return, because the whole beneficiary is based on the project, profitability. So I think Myanmar, according to China side, Myanmar will receive $54 billion after the 50 years of the project cycle, So even according to their information, it's exceeded than what China will get. But the way it appears is So everything is taking, almost 90% of electricity are going to China, and whether that can really make it, beneficial to our country. So that the first question is that, if, as far as I study, correct me if I'm wrong, many of the big dam projects always have a dissimilar problem of lower economic rate of return. So when you plan yourself, you made your proposal look nice and convince the banker to fund your project. Always, as far as I know, Professor Simon, please correct me. Always all these big projects, they are internal rate of return around 8% or 10% or 12% around that one. But it's never realized, maybe 4%, 3%. What I do know, for example, that some of the dam in Thailand, of course, it's a World Bank, projects, they expect a 12% internal rate of return. Actually, what they get is around a 4% or 5%. It's not as they plan. So that's why it will affect on our beneficiary between China and Myanmar. So I said challenge. Again, at the time, I think business school, they also did some study globally. This hydropower dam, economic aspect. They also pointed out these, cost overrun and time slippage. So such a big project, always costs are overrun. For example, in China, they have a very big project like, Three Gorges Dam. So originally, as far as I know, the budget is like $9 billion, but it ended up with the $27 billion because this is their pride, So that's why when you dig up the soil, when you find the rock situation, you realize that you have to more than for the strength of the dam. So it's cost a lot of money. I think that's why it's always overrun for other reasons too. So that's why if costs overrun, because the study period, feasibility study period, remember only the 2 years they did. Also, all the hydrological data is just the last 30 years. So to me, it's not sufficient to run your, I think, the hydrological model, especially under the climate change situation, right? So that's why if something wrong, even though you did the best, because of these technical uncertainty, then you have to, improve your design. It will cost you more. So it will affect on the project, economic rate of return. So that's why I try to challenge, please disclose all the information. And we had a better understanding on that one, right? At the same time slippage. So the project is going to finish within a 7-year time. If the more time you spend, the cost more you have to pay because the whole, landing period becoming, longer and your repayment cycle have been affected. So all these complex situations happen in many big projects. So that's why we have the same problem. How would you deal with that? Please disclose that information. That's what we demanded. So that's why when I also look at the, return on investment, as far as I know, such a infrastructure project is a 15-year or 20 years maximum, but this project is almost 40 years. so project is going to, the life cycle of the dam is a 50 years. So you have to wait 40 years to get your investment back. It is very unusual to me and quite a risky. So that's why it's a too risky project. And then whether we will get our share is true or not, there is a main point. We are challenging on that one. Okay. Another also thing is when I look at their, tax structure, they ask for the exemption of the commercial tax. There's a two kind of tax. One is when you sell the electricity, there's a certain tariff, commercial tax have to pay. But this project, they enjoy this exemption. Again, they only pay the income tax after they make the sale. So that is so risky. If you cannot sell your electricity, you are not going to make any profit. Because as far as I know in Yunnan province, which is next to our area, and then there's a surplus of electricity in Yunnan province, and even they are selling some electricity to Vietnam or other countries, as far as I know. So these also questions of their sale of the electricity too. So that's why make sure if it's not happen as you plan, it will affect on the whole benefit sharing arrangement. And again, also that's why what's appeared to me, the way this economic, structure of the project is, because guy is going to invest, maybe they are, borrowing money from the China Overseas Development, which is their central bank. So instead of making project, beneficial, it's much more, interest in having the contract. Because as a construction company, having the contract is more important. You get a huge landing, you can keep your business running. Whether you get from the entire project after the sale of the electricity, another matter, another issue. So that's why it's very tricky in some project. As a whole, every time they show, oh, project is very beneficial, but there are major interests to have the construction, contract, to get. In many cases, it's like that. So that's why we have to be very careful in this trick. Because also in China, as you know, all are big, government-owned enterprises. So they have also their own political interests, expanding their project in other, country too. So that's why if there is a political interest there, we should also have a sort of measure mitigating this political risk. As a country, do we have any measure for managing this political risk? So these all are the questions we raised at the time. So that's why another problem is, transparency of this 10% share border. Also, I also found that there is no fee for the water used in the hydropower, because when I learned from, I think the Vietnam case, so every, gallons of water they use in their dam, there's a certain fee to pay for the local community to, benefit, especially for keeping their, conservation or their local practice for conserving the watershed area. And that sort of arrangement we found in other countries. But in our case, there is no such a, water fee to be paid in the project. So that's why when I saw this a 10% share of broker fee, I also angry, because to me, it's like a correction. Because according to the company, so within a year, they spent almost $800 million. Even you haven't seen anything, just clearing of the land and a little bit, building there, you already spent $800 million. Because after the project was suspended, so the China said that, okay, you can start the project, or then you have to pay the fine every year, $15 million to cost up, So there's the message they are giving. If you want to continue, they were going to continue. But if you want to suspend it, then you have to pay the extra, charges of $50 million per year. So that really, threatened to our economic situation as well. So I think in that sense, so another problem is also the justice, electricity justice, because in that area, in northern part of our, so I think we call it a kitchen state, that local ethnic people are living, not majority Burmese are living. So in that state, they also have some hydropower project before these big projects. So they generated 80 megawatt there. They can only utilize 30 megawatt. But when you have an electricity project, always project proponent boasted, okay, if you have electricity, you may have your industrial development, employment generation, rural electrification. In fact, we haven't observed anything in that area. Because first simply, when you want to, give the electricity to the rural villages, you have to extend your grid. It's not so, I think, cheap, because the villages are scattered around and only few households are living there. It's very costly. That's why, as far as I observe, whenever there's a big project, only those villages living around this, what you call, grid line, central grid line, they benefit from this access to electricity. But the rest of the villages are not benefit from such a, electricity about hydropower development. Again, yes, to develop industry, we need electricity, but to develop industry, we also need other measure, political measure, market, so many factors for industrial development. That is why even electricity is supplied in this particular state, no industrial development was found. So that's why the argument, making from the CPI, oh, for your country development, you will have electricity. So I did not accept that fact, and that's why I argued with that. Okay, so considering this, I'm trying to think, okay, well, that to me have to calculate the cost of these premium for ecosystem and integrate it into this economic model. So there is a more holistic understanding on the nature of the cost and benefit. And then we can discover that the sharing cost and benefit among that. So I don't know in other countries, how do they do that? So there may be already where price, I mean, standards or prices already done. If there is, I want to learn. Please share with me. But as far as I know, taking into account of this natural capital in the whole economic analysis, I will very seldom. I did not come across. So I mean, that's why I want to study myself here as well. So to learn more about on this, integration into the economic development. Another is how could the hydropower development be equitable, transparent, and accountable? Because I told you that I received this information from the leaked information from the government department, but number of these big projects never share their economic analysis and never have a proper debate on this, transparency and accountability. So that's why they also flaw for sustainable development, because I get also involved in another scheme called the EITI, Strategy Industry and Transparency Initiative. That is for the mining and natural gas, every revenue they receive, how it is spent, how it is distributed. There is a certain international protocol and to be followed. But as far as I see on the hydropower sector, I haven't seen such an international mechanism exist and assure this aspect. So that's why these are, to me, still important to explore. Another question is about biodiversity. Of course, if you look at this map, so I think all these Gala one are the hotspot, key biodiversity area in our country. Okay, it is also the what we call last frontier of our biodiversity, because environmental degradation in my country is very high. This is the only area left. This is also important for it's a part of the Himalayan, Northeast Himalaya regions. It's not only important for Myanmar, but also for the global biodiversity conservation. At least as far as we study in Myanmar, there is at least 9% globally endangered species. We are the home for the 9% globally endangered species according to the IUCN Red List. Again, I'm cautious in telling this figure because this flora fauna inventory in Myanmar never completed. So that's why we do not know how many species exactly there. Because one of the when that project, company CPI did the EIA, I told you only 5 months, they find more than 100 species they could not identify. So what they did is they took all these samples to the two main biodiversity. They have a genetic bank to be able to identify other. Maybe they're thinking about some sort of insect conservation later on. But again, what they said is there's no such an endangered species in that area. So I did not accept that claim because we don't know exactly how many species are there. Even that species, we don't know their status, whether they are endangered or they are not, they are vulnerable or they are extinct, or you still need to classify their species status. It's still a long way to go. Without knowing these knowledge, how can you say, oh, no problem for biodiversity, right? Again, even that's a trick of the EIA sometimes. If you are familiar with the EIA procedure, they look at it and okay, as an alternative, we're trying to mitigate the environmental risk. So there may be for the species, we may have an institute conservation. There may be a little bit money given to the people to conserve their forests or biodiversity. But in fact, what is important is that the whole corridor need to be, conserved, or not only species but also site. Site also need to be, constructed. In that sense, when they are going to construct the 7 cascade dam, they exactly the danger of biofragmentation. Even we cannot keep the whole bio corridor, So this is a main problem for us. So this is a last stronghold for us for the biodiversity. Again, in that area, Wildlife Conservation Society, an American NGO who are working, specializing in, this wildlife management, they collect a lot of information that they told me that they found some of the problem because this area also important for the tiger reserve. This part of, red one in tiger reserve. So that at least they found a 30 tiger according to their camera track. But that number has been declined over time because of illegal poaching and other. So what they found, according to their analysis, is once sees a tiger will disappear, the other species like fox or wolves become, the number of wolves become increased. What happened is there's more, travel to other, prey. Because when you have a tiger, even tiger eat the, deer or pig, they only eat one, deer, and then they try to finish. They eat every, the whole body, and then only they hunt another one. When you have a wolf or other, they just take the part they like from this, prey, and then they move to another prey for hunting. So what happened is it's a waste of, wildlife, and they found, according to the WCS, the seeds in those, animals. Then there is a suspect, whether these animal disease can transmit to human. And, one of the COVID-19 is one of the example, from the back to the, and the human. So that's environmental degradation can, trigger another problem of environmental health hazard, that need to be also pay attention. In 2019, Smithsonian Institute, did this research and they discovered 2 new coronavirus species in bat too, So that's why it's more important to pay attention to the biodiversity conservation and environmental health aspect. But unfortunately, these are not well, considered in this project as well as the country as a whole. So this is why biodiversity is really not only for Myanmar, it's also important for the whole region and the whole world conservation from my perspective. That's why we are really argue that. So remember in the 2021, there is a UNCVD, COP, Conference of Party in the Kunming project, Kunming, Yunnan, capital of the Yunnan province in China. And there's a Kunming, declarations. What they really call for is an ecological civilization. That means, so building the shared future for all life on the earth. That means not only species, but also every site, and then the urban and also rural. So everything's are interconnected. That's why we have to pay conservation of this one. So that's why species conservation alone, there is the plan of the project, proponent are not enough to me. So it also had to pay the whole area conservation is crucial. There is one of the, so argument I made at the time. So another is an environmental aspect. There's so many things to tell, but to make it short, the first question is this environmental river flow, question. How could we determine the managed and environmental flow of the river? Maybe Professor Simon can tell me all these, this, hydrological modeling, and how is it possible to me? To be honest, it's too complicated because if you look at this, maybe there is a will to do scientifically, to do the river modeling or hydrology modeling. But what I want to highlight is, there is a higher dependency of, people on the river for their livelihood. There's a very complex tenure system. So can we really satisfy all the needs of these people who are reliant on the river? And then you need a very different study. You take, lengthier process, to do, not a 2-year study per year. You may need more time frame, to do the study. Once you have a confident, you have enough information, maybe we can, come up with good modeling and how that water will be allocated, how much water will be kept, and how much water will be distributed, not affecting other user at the downstream. Because remember, this is one of the biggest river in our country. At least 6 million people are living along this river bank. is something wrong, straight away, these 6 million people are to be suffer. Because especially in the downstream, all the low-lying agriculture are relying on that river for the sediment, because that river brought the sediment, right? Again, Swatch argue from the China side, okay, your river is already too much sediment. You don't need to worry the sediment because of the dam, even sediment will be low. But again, the argument is, yes, you might be true, but other tributary connected with that river, because of their geological condition, the sediment we got from that one is not good enough for our agriculture. Only the part you are going to build the dam is a good location for the good sedimentation for good agriculture. So if you stop that flow, the downstream agriculture is going to be suffer a lot. So there is a counter argument we make. Who is right or who is wrong? We don't know. We are still debating from the both sides. Okay. Okay, so okay, we have also another slight intrusion, because if you build a dam and then the freshwater withdrawal, freshwater flow is less, so maybe the seawater from the sea can come. But China said, oh, no, because we have more water in the summer, they will release. You don't need to worry, it will push out all the slime water. Again, there is always another argument, Again, the more important thing is the floodplain area, and because all the floodplain area connected with the river is also important for the inland fishery, which is one of the important aspects of nutrition, because look at people eat the fish and there is a source of protein for them, right? Because our main staple food is rice. We need also the protein source, and the fish is one of the source. If that inland fishery is gone, then it's also affect on so the whole nation, there's a nutritional, situation. This aspect also need to be taken into account in survey, but it's never explored that aspect too. In the flood control, they're not supposed to control the flood, but when you have extreme weather, then there's a huge problem at the downstream because of the release of the water from the dam. So these are the argument we have. Another one is this, environmental risk on the earthquake. Another aspect, the earthquake, because this dam is going to locate in these fault, geological fault, which always trigger the very big earthquake. Because of the weight of the water in the dam, that may affect on the faults, underneath, and it can trigger the, So I think earthquake. So there's a concern. There's an environmental security concern. So the argument is, if the CPI cannot scientifically approve that such a risk do not exist, we should enjoin that this, what we call it a precautionary principle. So shall we apply a precautionary principle for approval of the project? So for those who are not familiar with precautionary principle, I will discuss in the Q&A section. Okay, so let me move to now another social aspect. Of course, there's a forced relocation of the villages there. Or the company say, oh, we provide better house, better, this and road and electricity. But the thing is, nothing for their livelihood. There is no such a family. All of them are farmers. When you don't have a family, how can they can survive? Oh, you can engage in a project as a cash worker. After the project finish, how they are going to raise up, So this very complicated argument happen. Well, one thing, the big issue we have is this, the whole country said, this river, we feel as our mother is not for sale. Because if you look at our history, our civilization has been, evolved and developed along the river. That's why something affect on the river. It's like you lost your civilization, your culture, and your attachment to the river. There's a sort of sentimental value on the river we have. There's a sort of binding, Again, these social norms, social value we have are not well regarded. So there's a big question whenever you have a project approval process, how could this social value and priority can be effectively, even though you have a EIA or other, tool mechanism to make sure the environmental impact and social impact has to be less. But again, always, it's influenced by those powerful economic, giant policy maker, and these social aspects are always, discarded. So that's why it's still valid for us to raise that issue. So that's why my last message is that, but everything, even though we are arguing technically, this and that, it's difficult to come out with, a blue and white and black answer. It always the decision is made by politics because politicians make this policy, decision, of course. But I still believe that I would like to explore our Chinese colleagues globally in Oxford or other part of the region, at least to share our argument and whether we can establish understanding that will help to some degree, I think, making a technical consensus whether project should continue or not. If project is not sustainable for the whole country, why we have to continue? Even you crazy yourself as a politician to want to go, well, go ahead. It's not a rational, choice. So I think that's why one of my expectation is that I want to have a more exchange with our Chinese scholar and these, think tank group and to represent our concern so that how these public concern could be hard and scientifically we can debate and reach the consensus. So that is one of my main purpose in bringing this subject to your table. So thank you very much.
To you for that presentation, which just touched on so many things which are of interest to those of us here. Is, I think mine as well. So and you're online, then please feel free to pop that question in the chat. So who in the group would like to go first?
Hi, I'm just wondering if if the project has been considered under the World Commission on Dams that has been recently revisited in 2020. So that's the first question. And the second question relating to that, if the considerations have been made that the world community is kind of leaning towards actually not building more dams, but going towards destroying the ones that are already there or deconstructing dams. Is like a dam deconstruction movement that's happening right now worldwide. So I'm just wondering if that has been considered in the conversations you've had around this project.
Oh, well, that development, but one thing I did, I'm not against on the hydropower development there, but what happened as a result of our public campaign? Oh, dam is not good. It's a public, construction happened. So no, I have to make it sure. Okay, I'm not against dam. I only against unsustainable dam. So which I'm fine on some of the argument here. That's why I requested World Bank and IMF after this campaign because the dam this was suspended in 2011 September after their 9 months implementation. So the IMF agreed to give them some technical assistance on doing environment assessment on the hydropower dam. So we similar to what I did. They also have these three aspects: environment, ecology, and social. They come up with some parameter and assess the whole entire basin, different sub basin, and come up with the solution there. Okay, it's in some high risk basin, we should not build it there. In some area where you have a less, a risk and moderate risk, okay, this kind of hydropower dam. But again, you require EIA, SIA, and also cumulative impact assessment, more important. So in that way, we stay balance the argument on this one. So I'm not aware of the World Commission of them, but this is just to share the follow-up later on the hydropower development.
do you think there's such thing as a sustainable dam? Do you think it can actually be achieved? Because like, especially with the sediment trapping and things like that, from the environmental side, a lot of it is quite complicated to overcome. So do you think one day we will see a sustainable dam?
I don't know. I see. That's not my technical area, but again, sediments, it's important, but how you can scientifically model and make a suggestion, I simply don't know. But again, if sediments loss, definitely it's going to affect on the lowland agriculture and all the agriculture in the river. Okay. One thing I have found is in the Mekong River, they also do the some hydrological modeling to understand, because as you know, in the Mekong River, a lot of dams are put up in the China side and Laos side. So the country at the down, they really argue with that one. So one thing they did, and they can really find a correlation on the argument. So that came to me that, oh, it's a difficult, even if we try, but still it's complex and difficult to come up with very plain and white answer. Yeah, so that's why we have to get. So my argument is, if we have an alternative, this one is too risky. A lot of unknown scientific factors, social factor. If we have a less risky project, why don't we go for that? That is one thing. I want our Chinese colleague why we are refusing them. I really want them to understand our refusing so that we can establish their relationship. Otherwise, both sides has a kind of problematic setting. Yeah.
I think you did a really great job highlighting some of the different crops when you have dams. But I think there's an important benefit. We're trying to increasingly have electricity without carbon. So how do you think through that as an important sort of factor in the world?
Well, when I started that campaign, all of my engineering friends hate me because I'm like against with them. Oh, I don't do that. You're a civil work or engineering work. But I'm saying that because they say, okay, hydropower is one of the greenest, power, sustainable. No. In your big tank, you have a more methane capture in your sediment, so that you cannot claim as a green electricity from such a big dam. What about small dam? Maybe it depends your carbon, in and out, more than. So unless we know that fact, we cannot really claim. So also another debate came up from this one. Okay, if you don't like a big dam, what about small dam? Then one argument, your small dam can make it more problem. Also, we have no answer yet. Still arguing, but on the other hand, as a country, as a whole, we need energy from hydropower for sure. So when you model it for your energy, again, especially for the base load, again, you can have electricity from the sun or wind, but these electricity are not good enough for the industry because you need a very stable unit. So that's why only thing we have to do is we have to use the hydropower for base load management so that you have a more consistent and reliable. So that's why I still consider hydropower in my energy equation. Only thing is to look at all the aspects.
So online asked, what is the current status of the project? And is the project stage suspended or is it restarting after the military coup last year?
So we have a democratic window period last 10 years, but it was ended in the last year, February, because there's another military coup came out. As soon as military coup came up, 2 weeks later, so the chief of the military coup announced that the suspended construction of dam will be, resumed. It did not specify which dam, but everybody noted that the suspended dam, So that's why there is an article in the news, the New York Times, that there's a sort of leverage, political leverage. This military coup leader has been, hoping with China because they are seeking international legitimacy over for their military, administration. So that's why they were permit this, dam construction to China so that they have a more support. So there is a situation, but nothing has really started again. Because if I'm a CPI people, it's already lost a lot, without you have a political grandee and, stable situation, I won't come back here. I would, they are very clever economically. So to answer that one, nothing, but it's already mentioned at the policy level. There is a willingness to continue this. That's why I came back again. Okay, fine, there's a political decision, but technical level, I want to find a colleague to enlarge that debate. That's my direction to that question.
For the enlightening talk. So for me, this is a clear case of shifting of environmental burden from China to Myanmar. So I don't think it's necessarily a question of whether it's carbon-free electricity source, but obviously a huge geopolitical issue as well, where China invests in their infrastructure and then gives a treat to Myanmar, but really leaves all the social and environmental and economic burden as well that you have outlined in your talk. So I was wondering, what are the limits to activism in this power play of, but also now in the military regime, maybe also some opportunities, but where do you see potentially for the future hide, especially, just the 10% of revenue is disappearing in the air, potential for corruption. What can we live?
Well, so I told you that I was one of the co-leader in organizing that campaign. Again, I also do another co-power campaign. That's why in my country, I was heavily criticized because of these groups, no electricity. Because when there's a electricity, cut off in a city, I face a lot of complaint. I'm not against on this electricity project, but what we do after that one, I do care about energy. I do care about sustainable energy. So one of our colleagues, Wildlife Fund, they model the sustainable renewable energy. Even we find that we can generate up to the 50,000 megawatts, from an electricity source. Only thing is the problem. Some of the policy structure need to be done. So what we did is we continue lobbying with the government. And one thing is tariff, because government has a very heavily subsidized in the past, the tariff. So that discourage investors to come and invest in some of the potential energy projects. We successful. We live off, that tariff problem. So that's why more international investment interest in coming during that one. Okay. Then I do believe that there is several sources. We don't need to worry on the unsustainable source of energy. We can still do it. We already have a plan. Only thing in politics, because of that politics, so we are stuck. There's really destruction right now. So I don't know what will happen in the future. That's why I'm here too. So I Okay, the people really suffer. The local people are relocated. As I explained to here, there's no livelihood option. Even though they have a better house compared to what they have been living in the heart. Okay, they have a wooden house, but no livelihood option. Also, people are very attached to their original place. So that's why they, after the suspension of the dam, they request government to allow them to be back there. Government never allow. That means even the project is suspended, to some degree, it's still coming. So it's still big right now. But again, Laos, because Laos is interesting. All we refer to the Laos case, because World Bank helped a lot and China also put a lot of dam. It's a good example of that one. I also see many flaws in the power development law. For example, as far as I know, according to the power sharing scheme, at least they received a 600 megawatt for domestic use. But Laos government did not have a budget to build their local grid. It's a waste, Also, a lot of consequences there. But we did not know much about what is happening inside the Laos, right? Again, so that's why the key is a governance. Of course, you cannot eliminate the risk. Always there's a risk. When there is a gap, whether you have a capacity, whether you have an economic capacity, but in Myanmar or in the other country like Laos, our capacity is too low to deal with that risk. That's why if you don't have a good governance, that's my point. Forget about all these complicated things. It's too much for the least developed country. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, two things. One is I really want to have a connection with our Chinese scholar to continue the debate. I'm not sharing, this project should be started or whatever. At least there is some issue. It's still worthwhile to explore together. Let's debate, on amicability. That is one issue. This technical exchange will be very useful, for the future decision-making process. There's one. I think Oxford can play a lot of that role. Second, the most important thing, as far as the most concerning this sedimentation study. We after my the campaign, World Bank provided $100 million to do the sort of hydro monitoring there. This project is under termination because of politics, but still, we really have to study on these hydrological modeling or water budgeting and sedimentation. We have to continue. I really want Oxford, to look at that aspect technically. Thank you very much.